What I described in part one of these videos about how the cheap money and bailout monetary and fiscal policies pursued by the Federal Reserve and Congress create a transfer of wealth from the middle class to the very wealthy, people will ask, well, is it all part of an elite grand conspiracy? The short answer is no. It's not really a conspiracy per se, not so far as I can tell, not really. It is just how power works. It's a tale as old as civilization, really, and as long as governments, be they kings or republics, have been around, this dynamic has been around. The uber-rich, the big banks, the big corporations, the top politicians, they're simply doing what's in their best interest. The banks and corporations naturally want more dominance and share of their respective markets. The politicians want to maintain their positions of power through buying the votes of the masses. And the Federal Reserve is the great mechanism to make all of their power and wealth accumulation and the overall wealth and power transfer possible. Do you really think these guys, the people among the 1% or 5%, sit around at Bilderberg-type secret cabals and plot and plan carefully crafted and carefully concealed global master plans meant to pull all the strings meticulously for the next 10 or 20 years? Sure, you might say there are, at best, casual conspiracies in the sense that anyone getting together to discuss plans or strategy for the future could, in a sense, be conspiring. But I mean, if you know anything about groups generally, and especially elite groups, be they corporate elites, political elites, senators or kings or noblemen from the past, you'll know that these people rarely get along very well. They often downright despise one another, undercut and backstab one another, and generally try to outcompete one another. Intense, bitter, and sometimes deadly rivalries are all too common amongst elite groups. If they seem to be working in tandem towards some delicately crafted end goal, it's simply because they are separately working towards their own best interests. And if a particular mechanism or institution, such as the Federal Reserve, helps them achieve their best interests, then sure, they will all tend to cultivate and support that institution. Not so much because they all sat together in a dim-lit room at twilight in the Swiss mountains somewhere and gave their solemn oath with raised hands to serve the grand global scheme and to tell no one about it. You think they could really ever keep that kind of secret, secret? Besides, what they're doing, their quote-unquote grand scheme, is clear as day, right out in the open for anyone to see or understand if you just recognize and acknowledge what is happening and stop being willfully ignorant to it. It's no secret operation. The mechanics of it, the history and trend lines of it, are all plain as day to see, at least if you approach things from a non-Keynesian economic understanding, which is really key to understanding what is going on and how damaging it all is. Unfortunately, Keynesian principles, if you can even call them principles, have become so mainstream now and have seeped into so much of the economic understanding, or rather misunderstanding, of even the general public, that it's very hard for many people to see that there's anything fundamentally wrong going on. You really have to unlearn quite a lot of faulty economics and then learn or relearn the basics of sound economics to have the reality of the economic situation in America and the harmful nature of our monetary and fiscal policies become clear and obvious to you. But once they do become clear and you really see with refreshed eyes and understanding, you won't be able to look at all of this, at the American economy now or even throughout our history, the same way again. It's truly a kind of enlightenment. At least that's how it felt to me when I learned and began to understand much of this. It is perhaps the most important sort of enlightenment that people in America, in the United States, can undergo today. Unfortunately, this enlightenment might only begin to dawn on the large sector of society long after the point of no return has been reached, and the full transfer of wealth and power has already been completed, and there is no going back. At that point, what good will a full understanding of what was happening to us economically even be? The time for prevention of the whole process and for turning the ship around, so to speak, will be a thing of history. Hopefully, people can wake up to the economic, or really the socio-political economic reality now and in the coming months, and really start to fight this process. Basically, to fight the status quo. But if people never even realize that the fight has to be waged, well then, it's all lost. That's all I'll say on this for now. Good luck, everyone, with your finances, with your health, with preserving some semblance of the standard of living you enjoyed. Appreciate what you have now, and realize that times and conditions are changing. Try and preserve what you can, and also remember that quality of life does not necessarily equate with standard of living. Even if the latter falls, nominally, the former can rise. So all is not bleak. I'm not really a gloomer and doomer, honestly, but you have to make sure that you at least have enough of the important things preserved for the future to ensure that you can at least have a decent quality of life, even if the technical standard of living, i.e., a certain salary level, house size, number of cars, etc., even if those metrics go down. That might happen to you, but again, those do not necessarily correlate directly with quality of life. There are other metrics for that, which I can maybe get into in a future video. But for now, I'll leave you with those thoughts. Again, stay healthy and preserve your wealth. Bye for now.